Alright, how's everybody doing today? Back again with another video for you guys. And today what I have for everyone is my versus/comparison video between the ZTE Z-Max Pro and the Motorola Moto X Pure Edition, now owned by Lenovo. So, here we go. Let's jump straight in. Now, the first thing I want to talk about with everyone is the build quality and design of both devices. Now, let's start off with the ZTE Z-Max Pro. Now, from a build quality and design standpoint, I had to say that this device is built and designed very, very well. There's no rattling or creaking of any kind. All the buttons are nice and tactile and give a nice tactile feedback, and it feels very solid in the hand, has a very nice weight to it. So from a build quality and design standpoint, the ZTE Z-Max Pro is designed very good indeed, and is built very well, very well. Now, the same can be said of the Moto X Pure Edition. It's the same thing. It's got a very, very well built and designed device here. There's no rattling or creaking of any kind. All the buttons are very tactile and give you a nice clicky feedback. So again, from a build quality and design standpoint, the Moto X Pure Edition is built, designed, and constructed very well indeed. Now, you guys may be wondering, from a build quality and design standpoint, which device do I prefer? And I might have to say, this one is a tie across the board. I really do like the build quality and design on both of these devices. They both feel very solid in the hand. They both have a nice clicky and solid feedback to all the buttons. And it's a really good experience on either device when it comes to build quality and design. So I'm going to have to say this one's a tie across the board here. So from a build quality and design standpoint, these are both really good. Next thing I want to talk about with you guys is the displays on these devices. Let's start with the Moto X Pure Edition. Up front, dead center here, you have a 5.7-inch Quad HD display. And I believe that has a screen density of 515. There it is right there. I don't know how well that's showing up on camera, but you can see it's a 5.7-inch IPS LCD display, and it has a screen density of 515. Now, when we talk about the display on the Moto X Pure Edition, I have to say this is a really good display, and I've had no issues with it. That's about where I keep it on a daily basis right there. And I have to say the visibility outdoors is really good, and from a day-to-day usage standpoint, this display is really good, and again, I've had no issues. Now, jumping over to the ZTE Z-Max Pro, again, I have more of the same here. From a display standpoint, you have a 6-inch IPS LCD display with a screen density of about 367, and this is a 1080p display, and then this is a Quad HD display. That's 1440 by 2560, and this is 1080p. Alright, 1080 by 1920. Now, in terms of display on the ZTE Z-Max Pro, again, I have to say that this is a really good display, and I've had no issues with it. And again, I don't even know, this viewfinder on this camera is so small, I don't even know how good it's looking, but I know this camera can't do it justice. This is a really solid display on the ZTE Z-Max Pro. It gets really bright outdoors, and again, I've had no issues with it in terms of day-to-day use. And this is about where I keep it on regular day-to-day usage there, so y'all can see that. But in terms of display, this is a really solid display, and again, I've had no issues. So, that being said, you guys may be wondering, in terms of display, which one do I prefer, who won? And again, I'm going to have to say that this is a tie across the board here. Because y'all know me, a good display is a good display. I'm not really preferential when it comes to numbers or, you know, HD, Quad HD. That's just, you know, that's fancy display stuff. With me, a good display is a good display. It could be 1080p, it could be Quad HD, it could be 480p. As long as it's built and constructed well and it performs how it's supposed to, I'm going to call it a good display. So taking all the numbers and the resolutions out of the fray, I'm going to have to say that this is a tie across the board. Both these devices have a solid display, and regardless of which one you pick up, you should have a very wonderful experience. It should be a very good, solid, fluid experience when it comes to the displays. So in terms of displays, again, it's a tie across the board. Now, up next, let's talk about some of the hardware and software in these guys. Let's start with the Z-Max Pro. Alright, now, hardware-wise, the Z-Max Pro has 2 gigs of RAM and 32 gigs of internal storage with a micro SD card expansion slot in there. It has a 3400 milliamp hour battery. It has a 13 megapixel rear-facing camera that is capable of 1080p video recording at 30 frames a second and 720p slow motion. It also has a built-in fingerprint scanner, and guys, the fingerprint scanner on this one is really, really good. Other internals, in terms of the CPU, it has a Snapdragon 617 octa-core processor and an Adreno 405 GPU. Alright, up front here again we have a 6-inch IPS LCD display with a screen density of 367, and we also have a front-facing 5 megapixel camera, again, that can record videos up to 1080p. Alright, across the bottom here we have capacitive light up keys that are programmable, so you could swap them. So right now I have this as recent apps, back and home, but you could swap that in settings to however you would like. Now, in terms of software on this guy, we're running Android 6.0 Marshmallow, and this guy also has the ability to use your micro SD card as adaptable storage. So let me show you that real quick. And that's to control the buttons right there. I don't know how well that's going to show up on camera, but you can see it says key navigation, so you can swap your buttons right there like that. Again, I don't know how well it's showing up, so I apologize, guys. But if you scroll down here to storage, you can see I do have my micro SD card as the internal storage, and you can see I have overall 90 gigs of storage to use, and out of that 90 gigs I'm using about 23 gigs. So that's pretty cool that you can use your SD card as expandable storage. Now, other things in terms of software, I have to say that ZTE did a great job here. Let me turn the brightness down because it looks like it's throwing the camera for a loop. There we go, that looks a little better. Other things, I had to say that ZTE did a great job here. Now, it's a very, very light skin of Android. They did not add too much to this at all. All they did was add the ability to swap the capacitive keys, and they added extra functionality to the fingerprint sensor, so you can use the fingerprint sensor to pretty much open any app you would like. From sleep, you can use it to open any app you would like. So y'all can see right there I have it programmed to launch the camera. So other than that, I have to say that the software on this guy has been a very fluid and enjoyable experience, with the exception of the occasional slowdown when you have a bunch of apps open in the background, and also with the exception that this guy has a little bit of slight screen damage, so occasionally I get the occasional ghost press. But Other than that, I would have to say that the software experience on the ZTE Z-Max Pro has been great, and I've had no issues. So in terms of hardware and software, I would have to say that the ZTE Z-Max Pro has been great across the board. Now, next, let's jump into the hardware and software on the Moto X Pure Edition. Now, in terms of hardware, the Moto X Pure Edition has 3 gigs of RAM and 16 gigs of internal storage with micro SD card expansion. It has a 3000 milliamp hour battery. It has a 21 megapixel rear facing camera with LED flash that is capable of 720p slow motion, 1080p video recording at 30 frames a second, and 4K video recording at 24 frames a second. Okay? Up front here, we have a 5.7 inch, again, Quad HD IPS LCD display. We have dual front firing speakers. We have a 5 megapixel front facing camera with LED flash, and you have your built-in sensors from Moto Display. Alright? Now, moving on, when we talk about software, again, we're running a very stock version of Android 6.0 Marshmallow, with the only real customizations being Motorola's customizations here. So you can see we have your Moto voice functionality, so you can set up a custom key phrase and interact with your phone using your voice. And then you have your Motorola gestures. Again, I'm sorry, I don't know how well the camera's picking that up. So you could raise the phone to your ear to ask the phone questions, or you can use your Motorola voice. You got your Moto Display, which is this guy right here. So that's that. Then you got your chop for the flashlight. Okay? Got your twist for the camera. And that's pretty much it. Other than that, you have a pretty much stock version of Android 6.0 Marshmallow right here. Everything's stock and exactly how Google intended it. And again, this is another Android device which allows you to take advantage of using your micro SD card as internal storage. And I'm going to show you guys right there. As you can see, I have a 128 gig card in here. And out of that, you can see I have used 63 gigs out of the 133 that I have available. So I have tons of space here. Again, I don't know how well that's going to show up on camera. Boom. There you go. But again, that pretty much covers the software. Now, in terms of the software in day-to-day usage, it has been a very fluid and straightforward experience. And I've had no issues. Except for, say it with me guys, the occasional app slowdown when you have a bunch of apps open in the background. That's about it. I've had no other issues aside from that. With a bunch of apps open in the background, you will get the occasional app slowdown. So that covers the hardware and the software on the Moto X Pure Edition. And now, you guys may be wondering yet again, in terms of hardware and software, which one do I prefer? Which one wins? Well, in terms of software, I have to say it's a fluid experience across the board. In terms of hardware, again, I have to say it's a fluid experience across the board. That being said, the ZTE Z-Max Pro does have the leg up because it integrates the fingerprint scanner, and you can do a lot more things with your fingerprint scanner, and you have just that extra level of security with the fingerprint scanner here, whereas the Moto X Pure Edition does not have that. But taking the fingerprint scanner out of the equation, the ZTE Z-Max Pro loses again because it has a rear firing speaker as opposed to the Moto X Pure Edition's front firing speaker. But that being said, in terms of hardware, taking away the differences, just going hardware to hardware, I have to say that it's a tie. And just taking away the fingerprint sensor and going software to software, I have to say it's a tie. And that really is saying a lot in my opinion, considering that the ZTE Z-Max Pro only has 2 gigs